Hey Mel, this is Bob. Um, so this is a disposable letter. It's quick and dirty, but I thought it might be interesting to try it out, see what happens. First thing I'm going to do is talk to you about the graph that I sent you, tell you what that's all about. Next thing I'm going to do is tell you about an experience in the park that I had. Another experience that I had with Fatima's speech therapist. And then I'm going to attach a couple of audio files about Daniel Kahneman, and that's all. So, first of all, this is the graph that puzzled you. What it shows is came from Paul Krugman, who was trying to show that between 2019 and 2023, uh, contrary to what most people would believe, the poor, their wealth, I guess, their wages increased uh, and increased more than the other quintiles. And the top fifth, that would be you and me, our wages actually did decrease. I'm not sure it's because for you and me, wages are not very important. And I have a feeling because of the stock market boom that your income and my income has gone way up, whereas people in the other quintiles probably don't have as many stocks. But anyway, that's what that was all about. And I made some joke about die capitalist. That was the joke. Not a great joke. And now I want to tell you about something that happened to me and some friends in the park. Uh, every Sunday, Donald and Sue, friends of ours, and Fatima and I, we meet in the park and we chat and we have coffee. And this is in the Letterman complex. And here we are. We were just sitting down comfortably, and a couple of girls came by. This is what they look like here. And apparently, they thought that we four, sitting on the park bench, were so endearing, and cute, and whatever, that they came up and talked to us. The one on the left is named Kadifa. One on the right is named Monique. I got interested in it. We chatted. We said various things like, "It's nice to be noticed. When you get old, nobody notices you." I noticed Monique, the taller girl. She used the word "y'all" when she was talking to us, which I found curious because y'all it's a second person plural pronoun in English, but used only in the South, and I could tell she didn't come from the South. So I quizzed her about it. And she said she didn't know what pronoun to use. She could have just used you. We would have understood it in the context. But she said she didn't want to use you guys, which I've heard professional linguists say that that's actually common colloquial language for the plural of you. You guys, meaning it could be male or female or a mixture, and people tend to use that. I don't. Um, if I say you, and it's not clear from the context whether I mean singular or plural, I specify it. I say you, plural, or I say you, not you personally, but all of you. And that suffices for me, but apparently this girl was really quite sophisticated. So that interested me. Another thing that interested me was that these two girls were touching each other and embracing each other in ways that led both me and Fatima to think that they were gay. But then Kadifa said that she had a boyfriend, so that confused me a little. but not a lot. Uh, I can, I don't, it's not a big mystery. Then we went on to talk about aging, and I took off my shirt because I had your T-shirt underneath, and this caused great hilarity. I'll show you. They sent me a video later.
What's going on?
Didn't know what you're getting into.
What's going on? Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
Now, this wasn't all, because I took a photo of them, sent it to them, and they took photos of us and also the video of us, so they had my number, my phone number. They sent me texts. Now, the texts really confused me because they were so effusive and enthusiastic. And I'll show you some of them right now. Bob, it was so lovely to meet you. Fatima, Sue, and Donald. Triple exclamation points. I'm including Khadija here too, so we can maybe all have a quadruple date sometime. It goes on. Bob, it was on, and Khadija said, "Oh, my heart symbol is bursting." Triple. And then Bob and your crew were the highlight of our day. 3 hearts. And then one of them made a comment about y'all. I really couldn't understand that. I had this is that kind of enthusiasm. What I think was happening is that they saw we were so cute that they treated us like children or little dogs. Although it did occur to me that there might be some scam going on, but I think that's unlikely. At any rate, the T-shirt the next day had another appreciative person. Fatima and I were talking to our physical therapist. Her name is Ashna, and it was a video conference, and we didn't have much to talk about because everything had been settled. So at the end, she had to stretch it out for 20 minutes, I think, or 15 minutes, and she did. And I took off my shirt again. Now, you can't see it because I recorded it on my phone just in case, as an alternative to taking notes. But you can hear the reaction. I didn't actually undress in front of the camera. I moved to the side and took off my shirt and then reappeared with aging. It's the future. And here's what it sounded like. I do want to show you my T-shirt. Excuse me.
Please. I would love to see it.
I mean, since we can't, since we're aging.
Okay.
Is it there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stand up a little.
Wait, stand up a little. Yeah.
Or-
Aging. It's the future.
He just loves that wherever he goes, he show aging.
A friend of mine
The future.
dreamed that up, and I had it made into a T-shirt for both him and me. And it kind
that's so good.
yes.
Oh, that is so... Wait, I think this is the highlight of my day. I'm going to write it down in my little, log thing that I do. That is so great. Wow. Yeah,
Aging is the future.
I love it.
Now, since the link didn't work before, I thought perhaps I'd just include the interview with Daniel Kahneman here. At the end of the interview, I won't say goodbye. It'll just end, and you can delete this link, as I will.
Social scientist Daniel Kahneman, who has died at the age of 90. We thought you might like to hear our full interview with Danny from back in 2012 when Tim Harford spoke to him about his new book at the time, Thinking Fast and Slow.
I will tell you about a city in which two taxi companies operate. And one of the companies operates green cars and the other operates blue cars.
This is More or Less. I'm Tim Harford, and you're listening to Daniel Kahneman, a psychologist who won the Nobel Prize for Economics.
85% of the cars are green and 15% are blue. And now there was a hit-and-run accident at night, clearly involved a taxi. And there was a witness who thought that the car was blue, belonged to the minority company. And they tested the accuracy of the witness, and they found that under similar conditions, when you showed the witness an equal number of cabs, the witness was accurate 80% of the time. Now, what is your probability that the cab in question was blue, as the witness said, when blue is the minority company? Now, most people say 80%. This is the common answer. Well, here is a slight variation on this, and you will see how different it is. There are two taxi companies in the city, the green and the blue, and they have the same number of cabs. But 85% of the accidents are due to the green taxis and 15% to the blue taxis. And the rest of the story the same, a hit and run, a witness, and so on. And now, what is the probability that the cab involved in the accident was blue? Is it still 80%?
We'll come back to that story in a moment because, like much of Daniel Kahneman's work, it tells us a great deal about how we think about statistics. Kahneman's new book, Thinking Fast and Slow, summarises much of the hugely influential research he and his late colleague Amos Tversky carried out over many years. Before we go any further, we need to know what he means by thinking fast and slow.
Fast thinking is what happens to you when I say 2 + 2, or when I say the capital of France, and in both cases, an idea came to your mind. You didn't ask for it. You didn't have to deliberate about it. So you didn't intend for it to come to your mind. It just happened. And there are many thoughts that are like that. We're conscious of some of them. We're not conscious of others. Emotions are like that. The way we see the world is like that. Slow thinking is, what happens when you fill out an income tax form, or when you read a map, or when you follow a dense piece of reasoning. And that has to be done deliberately, and you work at it. And it's a very different kind of thinking than fast thinking.
Now back to those taxis. Remember, in one story, most of the taxis are green. In the other story, only half the taxis are green, but they cause most of the accidents. So should we believe our witness, who's fairly sure the hit-and-run accident was caused by a blue cab? If we think statistically, we see that in both cases, the high probability that a green cab was involved actually outweighs the unreliable witness. There's only a 41% chance the blue cab was involved. But that's just not the way it feels to us.
Statistically, the two stories are identical. But what happened in the second story is that you formed a very clear image that those green drivers are crazy. And that counts, unlike statistics, which are dismissed when confronted or contradicted by the witness. It's statistics versus a causal story, and the statistics lose. By and large, we don't think properly when we think statistically. We tend to think in causal stories and not in terms of statistics.
Well, you've made a career of asking these awkward questions of people and seeing how they react. So give us another example.
Well, I have an example again of a woman, and her name is Julie, and she's in her last year of her university education. And I'm going to give you an additional fact about Julie, that she read fluently when she was 4 years old. And now I ask you, what level of a degree is she going to get?
Yeah.
And people have an idea. What is the most striking about fast thinking is that an idea came to your mind immediately.
Yeah, I thought PhD was the first thing because she seems so smart.
Yeah, that's it. And so you fill in, and what you do actually is you determine Age 4, very precocious, and then you look for a degree that matches your impression of how precocious she is. Now, statistically, this is absolutely the wrong way to go about it. Actually, in fact, this is very weak evidence. She was 4 years old then, and she read, she's probably quite bright. That really doesn't tell you what kind of a degree she's going to get. It's very, very weak evidence.
And presumably there is other evidence that we could call to mind if we thought about it for a moment, about which degrees are most likely, and most people don't get PhDs.
That's the first thing you should think about. It's called the base rate. You should think, how likely is this outcome? And then, is the evidence that I received sufficient to move very far from that likely outcome? And the answer in this case is clearly no. There are two things that people don't think about in this example. They don't think of the average, of the most likely outcome, and they don't think of the number of other factors and the number of other facts about Julie that they do not know. What we don't know, we really don't think about. And that makes thinking properly about statistics extremely difficult.
A lot of what we see in the newspapers is reports or scares about what you might call extreme or unlikely events. What research have you done that processes this idea of extreme events? And do we overrate them or do we underrate them? Because I read different things about this.
Well, actually what we do is we either greatly exaggerate them or we completely ignore them. So this is really what happens. It's almost impossible, I think, to give rare events the correct weight in our calculations. When we think about them, we exaggerate them. When we don't think about them, we tend to ignore them completely.
I was quite struck in your book, this idea that there's a probability-weighted scale, and obviously probabilities go from 0 to 100%, but we don't feel that 0 to 100% in anything like a straightforward or linear way.
Oh, absolutely. For example, if I told you that somebody is in an operation and that they have 99% chance of coming through it, you'll still be very worried. So the 1% looms very large in this case.
Of course, yes.
And so people clearly do not respond properly to the numbers in probability.
That gap between 0 and 1%, or also between 99% and 100%, those are two very important gaps.
That's right.
The gap between 50% and 51%, who cares?
Is absolutely negligible, yes.
I suppose it raises the question, is this kind of fast thinking actually efficient and useful for the problems that we face in the modern world? Or has the world changed in a way that our evolved thinking systems are just no longer helpful?
Well, our fast thinking is very good. We wouldn't survive. We are not doing, most of our lives are not guided by system 2. They're guided by fast thinking, not by slow thinking. But there may be problems, and I'll give you an example. Global warming may be a problem where fast thinking is not going to get us out of that trouble, because fast thinking focuses on the immediate threats, on threats that are readily imaginable. Global warming is distant, it is very abstract, and it's quite possible that it will be difficult for democracies to respond to global warming in time. It may be too late by the time the system 1 of the population realizes that there is a threat.
Daniel Kahneman, if you've seen a statistical story you'd like us to investigate or just explain, do get in touch. You can email us at moreorless@bbc.co.uk. We'll be back next week. Until then, goodbye.